And this was the title actually I put into the system. It's a big data analytics in science. It's actually a very big title. And since then after that I learned that I only have 20 minutes, then this is going to be my real title, okay? So why do we care about this? And for those of you actually who know my research in recent years, you know that actually we had quite a few projects sponsored by NIH. So actually we do data mining, but the application we have in mind would be in the biomedical field. Why do we care, right? So, because we're computer scientists, we're doing data mining, and why do we want to play the role of doctors? But here's a dream by Hollywood, okay? So if you watch Iron Man, the movie, then you probably are familiar with this scene that is, so in the ideal world, like what if the doctors have a system, like a personal AI. AI is a hot word now, right? So, and then that could tell us what kind of tests we should go through, right? What's the optimal test we should go through, and then what's the treatment we should be receiving as a patient, right? If there's such system to help the doctor to do that, that would be great. Nowadays, basically, if we go to the doctor's office, it's mainly based on the doctor's training in medical school and plus X number of years of experience, right? So basically, that's an AI system they built maybe manually. But nowadays, we went into the era of digital biomedicine, right? So we have been collecting lots of data, right? We heard about this. If you talk to any hospital in US and in China, so they are, they have the electronic health record, right? In every hospital. So, and everybody talking about that. There's a patient database, it keep track of everything. So, and also, immediately when we talk about the volume and the size of the data, and then people think about, well, must be mean image, right? Maybe X-ray, maybe MRI, maybe some, ECG, EEG, like, whatever. Because I'm not a doctor. There's a lot of medical imaging that people are acquiring. So it's a lot of data. And also, more recently, people actually, this is one of the active area that both in academia and industry is mobile health, right? So how many of you have a cell phone? Perhaps everybody, right? How many of you, like me, has a watch, right? Or maybe like Xiaomi 手环, right? So it's like more and more people, right? So they are actually, those little devices are collecting data, right? At the very moment right now. So, and how do we integrate all the data and to help us to monitor the individual's health, right? Help us to help the doctor to diagnose and treat disease. And also, in more of the biology science says that actually it used to be like sequencing is such a tedious and expensive operation, right? Remember when we talk about the the first human genome, right? Assembly, right? That takes many people, many teams, many years to do. But nowadays, well, it still takes a substantial amount of effort, but we're talking about days versus years, right? So in fact, at the UCLA, we have already started to have this giant the project of sequencing every patient. We hope to be able to integrate that data with the clinical record to help us to have a better understanding of the disease. And our goal is to build a comprehensive view of the individual. And then that view can help us to do a better diagnosis, better treatment, and hopefully that can improve the health outcome. So actually, we're not, being in academia, we're not alone in this, right? This is not just a pure academia research. It's equally, if not more active in the industrial side, right? And for example, Verily Life Sciences, I think is, how do we call it, spin-off of Google or some former Google employee started that. Let me put it that way. So they have the genre of like, they want to monitor 10,000 individuals, okay? And at NIH, they announced that they want to have a personal medicine initiative cohort program for 1 million individuals. At UCLA, that's our stage one, phase one. We have already signed contract with Illumina to do the deep sequencing and phenotyping for 100,000 patients. This is out of the 20 million patients we have. This is actually a small percentage, but a big step forward. Okay, so basically you can see that we are producing huge amount of data and also new biomedical knowledge, right? So where are those biomedical knowledge, right? Because you can see that they are all in, well, more or less public or private databases online, right? And in fact, they're not in one single database. There's already more than 1,500 such databases. Actually, this was the data in 2 years ago. Nowadays, it's even more. And if you look at the publications, because like us, we publish in KDD, but then if you talk to the doctors, the clinicians, they also publish their discoveries, right? So the PubMed is that is the equivalent of a DBLP, but it's in the medicine world, right? So, and the number of publications there double every, doubles in every year since 2004, okay? And what we want to do is to basically bring together all this data and the knowledge, not just data, not just knowledge, but integrate everything together so that we want to be able to improve and enable precision medicine. Okay, this is 5 years ago already said as the agenda in the report. If you read that, the Institute of Medicine, this is report, and they already said that. This report really guides the funding strategy of NIH. So when we think about this domain, the first thing came to our mind would be, well, IBM, right? Because IBM is one such pioneer in this field, very successful one. And then if you look at the website, you will find that this, they call it nowadays cognitive health, right? There used to be some other name, but that's the current name. So, and also, as I mentioned, that there's a lot of big and small company to basically work in the domain of mobile health. And also this company that I just mentioned again, that they also have this very ambitious agenda. So altogether, what we want to do is to translate insight from data science to knowledge and then into practice. So for these two steps, neither one is easy, right? We're actually at a very early stage, right? And with many promising results, but we are far from the destination yet. So since the first session of this, actual first half of this session, like people start to think, okay, we need to put into 3 words, right, to summarize things. So I can't come up with a nice catch name like a BMW, but here's my thing: integration, prediction, and the usability. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go over each of them. So for integration, so this is mainly what we're doing right now, everybody's research, right? So I'm not the only ones to do this. So basically, how do we, not manually, but automatically connect across biological data and the knowledge, right? So right now, people start to do that, but little by little, piece by piece, right? And here's the actually still a partial view. So basically, we have the, even from the knowledge database, like ontology to like metabolic pathway to gene to disease, chemical compound, a side effect of drug, and maybe like gene expression. So this is only partial view, but they should not be isolated like so, but really connected with different type of relationship, actually quite complex relationship. Even if we focus on a single disease, okay? That doesn't mean that we should just look at either only the electronic health record or the, data collect from the mobile device or omics data, basically, sequencing data, or some clinical study. So in fact, we should integrate all of them, right? So that we are able to discover maybe new subclass of disease and being better, and being able to classify the patient and making prediction better. So typically, this is a very high level, 10,000 feet view about a typical process. So basically, we're starting with the data. We somehow build some kind of a model, right, to be able to associate data A to data B, right? And then hopefully that model can help us to predict the disease outcome. This is a typical one. But what we envision is that actually there's another part of the input to this equation is basically the knowledge base. Nowadays, we already have a lot of those, like protein-protein interaction, like genetic interaction, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of them. We should be able to integrate that together with the data. But it's not an easy task. Because if you look at a single data source, right, and then we have already heard, wonderful talks about how do we construct, relationships to learn association and correlations about the data. So, and then we can represent it as a graph, right? There's a lot of graph, or you call it graph or networks, right? But then there's pieces by pieces. What we need to do is really to be able to integrate them, to connect them, to make all those links actually cross multiple data types, so that not only we can have the, talk about the symptoms and the signs at a very high level, but also link that all the down to the low level of proteins and genes, and and also maybe some features on the medical imaging, right? So this is not easy because it requires us to develop very novel technologies to be able to organize those data, to be able to map between different data types, to be able to be actually separate noise from the actual signal. So, and to be able to scale up to not only the large number of patients, but to a very wide range of data type. Okay, and we're talking about technology like in the first few talks, like natural language processing, topic modeling, semantic analysis, and also we need to have some continue to develop cutting-edge methodologies to basically to discover and representing relationships in heterogeneous information networks. And method we have been saying, like we talk about the MetaPath, actually done by Izhou, and also the multi-view clustering, network embedding mining. So, and then there's other methods, right? People are developing. So, what is the challenge here? So, traditionally, like if you especially you talk to biostatistician or a statistician, they are used to the univariate analysis, right? So this is a simple cartoon showing that what they typically do that you will have a genome, you have those mutations you observed and called SNP, single nucleotide polymorphism. They typically do one at a time to study like what's the effect of this one, right? What's a mutation at this position may cause maybe a gene expression change and maybe the the phenotype change. So it's really a univariate phenotype analysis. But what we need to do is to move from this to a network-based analysis, because genes never work in isolation, right? So they always work with each other. So basically, we have to model all of this together. Okay, so not just the set of genes, but also the proteins, but also other things, right? So if we talk about some treatment, some drug, right? So we have to basically integrate all the data and doing the analysis together. A little bit of our own research in the multi-domain clustering. So basically, if you have multiple actually networks already construct from multiple domains, so how do you make connections through them, right? So that actually what we have shown that is that without the technical details, is we're able to identify modules that has better biological meaning. Okay, so than any other like single domain classroom techniques. So this is something that actually still need a lot of research because it's never easy. So having that said, so I mentioned that people are publishing, right? So literature is the huge source of knowledge, existing knowledge we have. So how do we get that, right? And it's not easy because papers were written for human consumption, not for computer consumption. So we have to be able to somehow extract knowledge from literature, okay? So in our case, so basically what we care is about patient, what's relevant for the patient. What do we know about the disease? Maybe there's some clinical study. Maybe there's some basic research, right? So that actually talk about that disease. What we have a project called Research Maps. So basically what we want to be able to do is to actually mapping hopefully automatically mapping biomedical literatures to be able to extract entities and relationship between them to represent the knowledge. So this is the interface of the front page of Research Maps. And what we hope to build is some kind of a knowledge graph like this. And with, actually it's a directed graph, and there's an agent, really that there's sometimes it's a gene, sometimes it's a drug, sometimes, and that actually cause a change of the target. Okay, if you look at a single entity there, it could be, itself can be both an agent and a target. That's very possible. And then this may also have cycles. That's also possible. So, and you can see, and then we want to be able to extract this from literatures. How do I go to the next? Okay, so it is also possible, actually we observe this, that multiple papers may talk about the same disease. We talk about the same gene. So which means that they're not really isolated in knowledge graphs. We want to be able to integrate them if they're indeed connected or relate to each other, right? So, and so that this is another a screenshot to show that actually if there's multiple of them, we have to be able to weigh them because interestingly, their observation may not consistent with each other. There may be some inconsistency we have to resolve, okay? So, after that, we want to be able, after the integration step, we want to be able to make prediction. So we want to build a model to say, well, can we predict whether the patient, which stage of the disease it, what disease this patient has, what's the prognosis of the treatment? So there's a lot of prediction model that we hope to be able to build. Immediately, we think about, well, maybe we can use some machine learning method to do this, right? So, and in fact, there's, if you even look at KDD, right? So there's many, what we call this year application paper or data science application paper, right? So even in this domain, right? So, but that's a good thing, right? So it's very encouraging. But at the same time, if we talk to a doctor, right? Even our collaborator, you ask a question like, do you really use this model in your, in your office? Unfortunately, most of the time the answer is no, right? Why? It's because that it's maybe not too hard to make the model works really well on one piece of data, maybe from UCLA hospital, right? But then, if we talk about patient in UCSF, because there's a San Francisco is our rivalry, right? Hospital, it may not work so well, right? And why is this the case? So because despite the huge patient database, compared to the complexity of the feature space we're using, the data is still very sparse and noisy. May not be sufficient to build a really good model, okay? And also, the data we have often incomplete, right? Not only about the content, but also the provenance of the data, where this experiment was done, right? And we often, if you happen to work in bioinformatics, there's something well-known thing called the batch effect. Basically, if you repeat the same experiment the next day, you may get somewhat different result. And many of the models actually try to account for those batch effect. But still, those kinds of bias are hidden, are latent. So sometimes we may not even know. Actually, we have an NH Center for Excellence for Big Data to Knowledge, and heart disease is our focus, right? So let's ask a simple question. What is the reproducibility of prognostic model for heart failure patient, right, at UCLA? Okay? And unfortunately, we cannot generalize that too far, like to, not even in other part of California, and not necessarily even in China, right? So there's many, many reasons behind that. And some of them I listed here. So basically, the semantics, right? It's very hard to generate, right? A lot of them maybe, we don't want to overinterpret the data, okay? But unfortunately, many of the models we have seen actually really still have the overfitting issue, okay? And also, the patient population is different here. The environment is different here. Many of those things, factors, may not be able to be accurately modeled in the system. So this requires us to come up with new and better ways to share not just the data, but also the model. Okay, so because of time, I'm not going to go into the detail. And actually, this is open research, right? I invite everybody to think about this, to maybe come up with a better model. Another issue is that diseases are complex, and they're not static. They evolve over the time, right? So, which means we cannot really build a static model to say, well, this is a disease for model for heart disease, or model for flu, model for whatever, cancer, right? So think about a disease as a behavior, right? But it's a dynamic behavior. Over the course of, sometimes it's from days to years, right? So basically this requires us to build model to think about what can we do along the time dimension. Sometimes it varies from, spatially as well. It depends on the disease, right? So that's, again, it's a active research area. It's open research. And the last step is the usability part, right? So since we have the models, even if the models, it seems working very well in our lab, that doesn't mean that we can really, directly deploy it in the health system, right? Luckily, at the UCLA, we have a CTSI, it's called Clinical and Translational Science Institute. So they work as a bridge, and so that we can access about 20 million patient data through them. So, and actually, because our focus area is on the heart disease as one of our projects, and this is particularly, this is overview of our project on congestive heart failure. So I'm not going to go into the detail. So this is, not my own work. Actually, this is done through large collaboration. This is all the collaborators, maybe a partial list of collaborators and a partial list of students. And my last slides here. So I went back to UCLA 3.5 years ago. And after that, we start, 3 years ago, we started a Scalable Analytics Institute in computer science, and then with currently 6 members. Ijo is our newest member, about 1.5 months ago, right? And we have a website here. We are recruiting at all levels. So student, postdoc, faculty, you name, all level, okay? Contact me if you're interested in the space of data science. Okay, thank you.